11 years passed since the late leader Ali Abdullah Saleh transferred power. Yemen's Donors Conference opens in Geneva today under the auspices of the United Nations. UN report accuses Iran of smuggling weapons to the Houthis through the Sea of Oman. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Injil Zazi. The 27th of February marks the 11th anniversary of the handover of power by President Ali Abdullah Saleh. President Saleh embodied the brightest forms of democracy in the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in the history of Yemen and the entire Arab region. This report has more.
The great late leader Ali Abdullah Saleh handed over power in February 27, 2012, thus ending the march of 3 decades in power, which constituted the golden age of Yemen, an era full of many achievements, during which the president laid the foundations for justice, freedom and equal citizenship, and led the country through critical turns and complex circumstances towards its broad horizons of development and prosperity. At the moment when he sensed the plot being hatched against his country and his people, he tried hard to cut off the way for the advocates of evil, and he handed over what his people had entrusted him with. Saleh put the supreme national interest in his sights. He established and nurtured the course of the democratic experiment and preserved it, and handed over the banner of a unified Yemen at a remarkable historical moment. He transferred the power after a wave of severe turmoil since 2011, during which the country went through a dangerous and dark phase, and it almost fell into a pool of blood. Saleh saved Yemen from blind hatred and transformed chaos into a democratic state with a peaceful exchange of power. He held a ceremony and handed over the flag to a new president, saying, "I hand over Yemen to you, united, so preserve it."
A donors conference in Yemen is being held in the United Nations headquarters in Geneva. It aims at mobilizing more than $4 billion to support Yemen's humanitarian response plan for the year 2023. This report has more.
Yemen's present level of hunger is extremely fragile, inflicting great misery for millions of people. Despite continued humanitarian assistance, 17.4 million Yemenis lack access to food. The humanitarian situation in Yemen is worsening due to the lack in any improvement in the country regarding its economy or halting fighting. Ahead of a donors conference, the UN stated that it would require $4.3 billion this year to aid millions of Yemenis in the war-torn country of Yemen. More than 17 million people in Yemen, which has been devastated by a 9-year war, need assistance from aid organizations, and they need the money. The conflict has left thousands of people dead. According to the UN, Yemen is also at the center of a climate crisis, where severe drought and flooding are threatening the lives of people. In addition, the unprecedented global humanitarian needs are straining donor support more than ever. But without sustained support for the Yemen aid operation, the lives of millions of Yemenis will be jeopardized, and efforts to end the conflict once and for all will become even more difficult. Antonio Guterres, the head of the UN, stated that the international community has the power and the means to end this crisis. He added that the process begins by funding the repeal fully and committing to disbursing funds as fast as possible. The UN raised more than $2.2 billion last year, allowing aid organizations to reach nearly 11 million people each month all over the nation. This March, Yemen enters its 9th year of conflict and economic chaos. About 2.2 million children across Yemen suffer from acute malnutrition. In addition, about 1.3 million pregnant or breastfeeding women suffer from acute malnutrition. Yemen has been suffering from the world's worst food crises. Parents often find it difficult to bring their children to facilities for treatment because they cannot afford transportation. Unfortunately, until now, no actions are taken to help the people of Yemen, despite all the promises made by many organizations and countries.
Prime Minister Ma'in Abdel Malik affirmed that the human tragedy in Yemen is due to the Houthi coup against the legitimate authority by force of arms. This came in Yemen's speech delivered by the Prime Minister at the opening of the Human Rights Council session, which began its work today in Geneva. He reiterated that the government's position is to preserve and protect human rights as an essential part of a just and sustainable peace. The United States Agency for International Development announced the launch of new programs to boost peace in Yemen. The agency said that the programs are going to train humanity community members, enhance social unity, and promote a peaceful approach to resolving conflicts.
أبي مات بشارع 40 دحين أنا أشقى على أسرتي مع باقي اللي أنا أصرف عليهم كل شيء. أنا اسمي أنس وصيب سيف عمري 12 سنة. أنا أشتغل بورشة حديد من الساعة 7 للساعة 6. أحيانا أسرع أحيانا أقص أحيانا أرنق أحيانا أنقش أي حاجة أنا أعمل. لا الساعة لما تدين الساعة 6 أوقف. أنا وقفت الدراسة عشان ما فيش أحد يشقى على أسرتي. أدرس أخواني الباقي منهم 4 وأنا الخامس. أحلم إن أفتح ورشة أبي وأشقى على أسرتي وأندي لهم مصاري. وأدرس أخواتي الآخر الجامعات وأطبخ وأي شيء.
The UN group of experts confirmed that Iran is increasing arms trafficking to the Houthis. The Iranian interference in Yemen is increasing the conflict in the country away from any possibility of peace. The following report has more details.
The final report of the United Nations Security Council panel of experts for the year 2022 on Yemen has revealed the role of the Iranian port of Jask on the Sea of Oman in smuggling weapons to Yemen. The report said small wooden boats and overland transport were used in attempts to smuggle weapons made in Russia, China and Iran along routes to Yemen that the United States military has tried for years to shut down. The United Nations panel closely examined 2 shipments confiscated by the United States Navy in 2021, full of which the report said likely originated in Jask. Iran has openly supported the Houthis in their conflict in Yemen and abroad, but has long denied providing the militias with arms. Tehran told the United Nations panel that its weapons weren't sold, transferred or exported to Yemen. The United Nations final report provides the first detailed evidence about specific arms shipments tied to the port.
The U.S. Navy announced the confiscation of a new shipment of drugs valued at $20 million. It said the shipment was on a fishing vessel with 4 sailors that was transmitting international waters in the Arabian Sea. 2 people were killed in a strike carried out by a drone believed to be American in Ma'rib Governorate. Tribal sources said that a drone bombed a house where Al-Qaeda members were likely settled east of the Governorate. According to preliminary information, the sources indicate that the strike resulted in the killing of 2 unidentified members who had recently resided in a house they rented in the area. Ministry of Interior announced a list of 69 terrorist entities, most of which are active in the Middle East. The list included the Islamic State, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, the Somali Youth Organization, along with the Houthis in Yemen and Hezbollah in the Gulf states. Coming next in the news. Hodeidah Port receives the first general cargo ship since 2016.
So they're giving you nutrition for him?
قالوا لي سلمي له ما عنده ديله تاتو بطاقة الأسبوع يبون 15 ودحين تركه مدري يهبون له مدري لا يا صعب علينا بعض الحين من حصلوا له حتى 10 ريال والله معانا قال له حقه من نشتري.
And what's the problem with his hands? What happened?
ياكلها بس نالو لما يسيل دم.
Oh my gosh, it's red raw. Why is he eating his fingers?
ياكلها بنفسه كذا يمسكها وياكلها لما يسيل دم. بعض الحين مراها لقدي يسيل دم من هنا من سنانه حتى ينكع مضلعه. الحين ما احس الحين معه ولا قال لهم هاسبوا. الحين ما راهن جاع اهم ما بهن.
Welcome back. The United Nations Population Fund announced that maternal death in Yemen is the highest in the Arab region. In a statement, the fund said that 1 woman dies in childbirth every 2 hours, mostly from preventable causes. According to estimates by the UN Fund, about 7.1 million Yemeni women need urgent access to protection services during the year 2023.
Yemen requires urgent and robust support from international donors and other partners to effectively avert the potential collapse of its health system. The World Health Organization said new funding of $392 million is required to ensure that health facilities can continue providing even most basic services to 12.9 million of the most vulnerable people. Unless and until this massive funding gap is reversed, United Nations will not be able to sustain health emergency interventions in Yemen. This minimum service package entails health interventions from prevention and diagnosis to treatment and rehabilitation. Underfunding of the health cluster in Yemen in 2023 will result in up to 1,000 unsupported health facilities, 10 million persons, including 7.9 million children, without needed access to health services, 1.1 million children with acute malnutrition facing deteriorating health or death, and 2.9 million women of reproductive age lacking maternal, child, and reproductive services.
The World Health Organization called for $392 million to be raised to avert a potential collapse of the health sector in Yemen. The organization said that about half of the health facilities in Yemen are operating only partially or completely out of service. It also indicated that among those in need of assistance, 540,000 children under the age of 5 suffer from acute malnutrition. The Houthi group announced that the ports of Hodeida are going to resume receiving commercial cargo ships for the first time in about 8 years. They added that the daily entry of ships through the port of Hodeida will ensure that 70% of the needs of people are covered. This report has more.
In connection with talks to renew a UN-mediated truce agreement, a container ship carrying general commercial goods docked at Hodeidah, Yemen's main port, for the first time since 2016. The ship has 724 containers of various items docked at Yemen's western port city of Hodeidah. According to a Yemeni government official, allowing commercial ship access was a trust-building measure intended to support Saudi Houthi talks to re-establish the truce, which expired in October. Port officials stated that Shebel, an Ethiopian-flagged general cargo ship, was cleared by the Verification and Inspection Mechanism for Yemen, a United Nations inspection body. An increase in the flow of goods into the western port would lower transportation costs for products, as most were entering through the government-controlled Aden port in the south. The Houthis claim that they have the right to the financial and natural resources under their control. They make millions of dollars from the revenue generated by the Red Sea port of Hodeidah. Houthis also use the deteriorating Safer oil tanker in the Red Sea as a form of power, refusing to allow United Nations officials to inspect it. Moving to Oman's mediation, direct talks between the coalition and NSG representatives have been going on for a while. Recent reports indicate that these negotiations have advanced significantly in restoring the UN-mediated ceasefire that expired in October. Yemen has been marked as one of the worst humanitarian catastrophes in history since 2015. The country's economy and infrastructure have been destroyed, hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, and millions more have been displaced by the war, putting millions of Yemenis on the verge of famine.
King Salman Humanitarian Relief Center signed 2 agreements to operate 2 artificial limb centers in Taiz and Ma'rib. More than 7,000 people are scheduled to benefit from the 2 centers. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. 11 years passed since the late leader Ali Abdullah Saleh transferred power. Yemen's Donors Conference opens in Geneva today under the auspices of the United Nations. UN report accuses Iran of smuggling weapons to the Houthis through the Sea of Oman. This is the end of the news. It was Injil Zazi. Thank you for watching.